Yeah, it's the Casimir Engine Show podcast. Switching down knobs that are wrong already.
You're listening to the Casimir.
That's me.
Ka. Hasn't that been done yet? Isn't that the 90s?
You think so?
Casimir Engine.
It's the Casimir engine. It's not ka.
We were starting off how we mean to go on. This is Stir Fry Pop Star. Herbie's with me. He's nibbling me toes. Pretending it's a biscuit. You're listening to the Casimir Engine. It's a special show tonight. That's a fantastic stir-fry pop star. What a banger. A 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a bit of a different show tonight. I've got an interview, and the interview is it's about an hour long, but in between we've got live music from Frank Powers, who performed at Designate at the Gate on Smedley Street in Matlock. Frank Powers is from Sweden. Sweden. What? Switzerland. Hey, they're not in Brexit. Oh, they're not in Europe either, are they? Are they? I don't know whether they are or not. Hey, getting all political there, Kaz. But yeah, he came over from Switzerland. I'll take the Sweden bit out in the edit. and he played a beautiful gig up at the gate, and I recorded it. I don't know whether that's legal or not. I did ask him. He said it was okay. So we've got a lady called Helen Moat will be joining us after the next track. And she's an author, ex-teacher. So she'll be telling us about some of the stuff that she's writing. And she'll also be telling us about growing up in Northern Ireland in the 70s and 80s. Interesting stuff. Thank you very much, Helen, for joining us. So really, we've got time for just one more track. I'm going to be playing Richie Tyler with Reaching, because he's going to be coming out with some new Marigold stuff that I'm dying to get me mitts on. So pull your finger out, Richie Tyler. In the meantime, we'll have to put up with this. It's a classic. You'll be whistling this all day. As soon as you download this, you'll be whistling it. You listen to the Casimir Engine Show podcast.
Casimir engine!
Oh no, Herbie's decided to start barking. Richie Tyler's set him off Right, we're going to meet Helen Moat. Shall we dive straight into it?
Okay.
Are you ready?
I think so.
I'm no Jeremy Paxman, don't worry. I'm no Jeremy Paxman.
I'm no interviewee.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us on the Casimir Engine Show podcast. What do we introduce you as? Helen Moat author or Helen Moat ex-teacher? Or are you not teaching anymore, I take it?
I haven't been teaching for quite a few years now. So I think, at first I felt really self-conscious about calling myself a writer, and I thought, I'm not a writer. And then I thought, well, actually, I am, and I'm jolly well going to call myself a writer, so let's go with that.
Helen Moat writer.
Yeah, I'll go with that. It sounds good anyway.
It sounds fantastic. Okie dokie. I can tell by your accent, and I think a few of the listeners will tell by your accent that you're not from, you're not from Derbyshire. You've lived here for a long time, but whereabouts are you originally from?
Okay, I'm originally from Northern Ireland. It's really strange because when I go back to Northern Ireland, which isn't very often, people say to me, oh, you've got an English accent. Are you from England? But when I'm over here, I've had people say to me, you've got a really strong Irish accent. Yeah. So it's all in the ear, isn't it?
It's amazing, though, because I never think that I've got an accent. But I feel that, and then you meet somebody and they say, God, crikey, you've got such a local accent. And I don't feel that I have.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
You can hear your own accent.
I know, it's weird, isn't it? Whereabouts were you born?
So I was born in a little town that's called Lurgan, and usually people say to me, oh, I've never heard of Lurgan. Not surprisingly, there's nothing very special about it, except that it had the most bombed railway station during the Troubles. So that's about as famous as Lurgan is.
The most bombed railway station.
That's correct. Yeah.
Where is it near? Is it anywhere? Is it near to Belfast or?
Yeah, it's about 20 miles from Belfast, so not far at all. The best way to describe it is it sits at the very bottom of Loch Ness. Yeah.
I don't know Loch Ness. Should I know Loch Ness? Is Loch Ness the big lake in?
It takes a big chunk out of Northern Ireland, actually. Right. It's the biggest freshwater lake, because that's what it is, in the UK, I think. I'm correct in saying that. If it's wrong, someone will get in touch with you and say that's rubbish. Which it could be.
So did you spend a lot of time in Belfast as a youngster, or?
Before, not a huge amount. I think when the Troubles started, so I was born in 1961, so everybody can work out my age now.
They can now.
The Troubles started in 1969, and once the Troubles started, I think people who weren't from Belfast were a little bit afraid to go there, and it definitely had an atmosphere. If you wanted to go shopping, you had to go through the terror pins and be properly searched, your bags, everything. And after that, you were searched in each and every shop that you went into. So, and a lot of the big businesses on the mainland wouldn't invest in Belfast Centre at the time. And so it did have an atmosphere. It was quite subdued. I never experienced anything there. But the really funny thing is that people who lived in Derry or Londonderry, they wouldn't go to Belfast because they said it was too scary. And people in Belfast wouldn't go to Derry because they said it was too scary. So you know what you know.
So with it being the big companies in England then not invested in Belfast, were there plenty of local businesses over there then? Did you have local companies?
Yeah, I think there were shops, but it was quite soul destroying because a lot of these shops were bombed, some of them more than once. I mean, I told Tom a story today that he didn't know him, and my son Patrick, and said, I remember in Lurgan, because Patrick said to me, did you ever experience a bomb? And I said, well, I never walked past a place that was bombed, but I heard them, even though I lived on the very end. I would often hear the explosions going off. And the story I told Patrick today was, I remember I bought a coat for next to nothing from a shop that had been bombed because it was bomb-soiled.
No way!
It didn't actually have any holes in it or damage, but it actually smelt of smoke. So I got it really, really cheaply, and I really liked this red corduroy coat I had at the time. It was very 80s, early 80s. But yeah, I got this really cheap coat because of the bomb that had gone off in the shop. It was very sad, to see all these businesses, they would sort of be bombed and then they'd have to start again, and if they were really unlucky, they'd be bombed again.
Yeah. Was it scary to live in Northern Ireland during the time, or did people just get on with life? I suppose nobody knew really any different, did they?
There is that element, and you have to remember that the experience was very different for different people. I mean, if you were a working class person in Belfast, for example, you lived in the Falls Road or Shankill or whatever, if you lived in those really working class places where, the terrorists operated from, really, it was a scary experience for everybody on either side of the division. I lived in a little sleepy town. My own personal family were not involved in politics. They weren't in the police, my immediate family, or in the army. So for me, it really wasn't scary. I mean,
were you segregated from? Let's not go down the religious route, but. Was Lurgan a segregated community? Did you mix with Catholic and Protestant kids?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it's probably Lurgan maybe one of the more extreme examples. So before the Troubles started, there was a little bit of the mixing of communities, but once the Troubles started, there was. In some of the housing estates, people were threatened on both sides of the communities and had to leave. And there was a sort of self-regulated partition, if you like. So Lurgan had a main street in the middle where the shops were. Yeah. And then you had really the Catholic community living at one end, basically, and the Protestant community living at the other end. I said I wasn't, my family weren't involved in politics, but my next door neighbour was a policeman. He moved away, but shortly after that, he was still working as a policeman in Lurgan. And during the Troubles, there was a gate at either end, of the main street, the shopping area. And for some reason, it doesn't seem like a good idea in retrospect, and the police opened the gates every day at the same time because the town centre was virtually shut off during the night, and they closed them again at the same time at the end of every day. And my next door neighbour was opening the gates one morning. He was shot dead by the IRA. It was really quite tragic. He left two teenage sons, and of course there were tragic stories on either side of the community. So there was a lot of pain at the time, of course, people losing family and friends. So, the peace process, for me personally, was a wonderful thing.
To all the endless wine, sending raspberry
it made it an exciting place culturally. Did it affect you musically?
Yeah, there was an extra complication in that I grew up in the Plymouth Brethren.
Oh, yeah.
So I really culturally had a very limited experience anyway. It was quite a strict kind of church. I wouldn't call it a sect, but it was very, very strict. So really, the Plymouth Brethren are very suspicious of the outside world, if you like.
Yeah.
My parents weren't as strict as some parents, but, I did have a fairly limited experience of culture in Northern Ireland when I was growing up. What I was going to say to you was I went away and lived in Switzerland for a year.
Oh, wow.
Mid-80s. And then I came... I went back to Northern Ireland for a year, and the Troubles were still very much going on then. And then I came to England to study. I went back after quite a long time to Belfast. You hadn't gone to Belfast. And when I went, I felt incredibly emotional because I talked to you about the shops and how you had to be searched, and there was an atmosphere. It was quite subdued. There was wasn't exactly open fear, but there was, you were very vigilant. And when I went back to Belfast, it had been regenerated. The centre was really buzzing. Businesses were being investigated in again. And it was really quite emotional going back to Belfast after all those years, after the Troubles had come to an end.
And when was this then? So you were in Switzerland in the 80s?
So it was the mid-80s I was in Switzerland, and I suppose I did go back to study. I left school when I did my GCSEs, and then I went back and did an access course in Derry in the middle of the Troubles, which was quite scary at times. I did get caught up once or twice, actually, in sort of like skirmishes with groups, on both sides of the community, where bottles were being thrown, and there was a lot of anger at the army in Derry particularly. I was not on the water side, on the bog side, so, and I brought some friends over who were English to visit. They came over to visit me, and they were absolutely petrified because all the shops were closed at night and shuttered, and it was really dead. And then they said, we find it really scary. And then by the end of the week they were taking photographs of the place, and they had the jeeps with, they had netting right down to the ground so that nobody could throw bottles, bombs or anything like that under the wheels. And they were taking photographs at the end. And I said, you've gone from the sublime to the ridiculous. You were really scared when you're right, and now you're taking pictures of the army. Maybe not a good idea.
Now it's a tourist destination. It became a tourist destination.
Yeah.
But
and I'd love to go back to Derry because I haven't been there since they built the Peace Bridge, and I'd really love to go back and see what it's like.
Yeah.
So, here we go with a tune that I've actually written on that last journey I did. But actually there's a video on the internet where I've climbed the walls of the castle up there and almost got beaten up. I was really lucky. The guy almost ran me over with his truck because he felt it's not good to get in, and I knew I was not supposed to do it. But this tune came out called Free Moves, and as it's free moves, it's free moves.
Free
So I kept staring on those spiders' fingernails. Oh, in England never seemed so far away. But it is freedom, freedom, freedom. It is freedom, freedom, freedom. Clarify the cake, didn't satisfy the new cookbooks in a language I don't speak. The order from below will always rise slow. So you do what you got to do, and if you fall down this lane, help you on. It's freedom, freedom,
What took you to Switzerland?
1985, I went there. I had lived at home all my life. I'd found a job. I started off as a library assistant, and I was living this very conservative little town. There wasn't a lot happening, and I thought I need to get away and see a bit of the world. So I went off to Switzerland to be an au pair. It's really a life-changing thing. Yeah. And I went back again later.
In whereabouts in Switzerland?
So the first time I was there, I lived on what they called the Gold Coast, just outside Zurich. Yeah. I worked for this very wealthy lady. She was very nice, who had been married, was divorced from the family who owned the biggest private bank in Switzerland. So you can imagine just how wealthy she was.
Yeah.
Fantastic. She had this beautiful house in the mountains, and spent whole winter skiing and cross-country skiing. So it was really a nice time. And then I went back again when I did a degree in German eventually in Southampton. That's where I met my husband, Tom. And I went back for another year to work in a school as a language assistant. So that was in a place called Winterthur near the Zurich airport. So that was really nice as well.
Yeah. And then you went into teaching.
So I did my degree in German, and then I thought, what shall I do now? So I ended up doing a PGCE and went into primary school teaching, and did that for about 12 years.
Okay, and were you when we're talking, you're in Matlock, I'm in Matlock.
Yeah.
But did you first go into teaching over in Matlock, or were you elsewhere in the country?
So at the beginning of my married life, my husband Tom and I, we were in Peterborough.
Okay.
In Cambridgeshire. Yeah. And I started my teaching career there in a place called Huntington, and then when we came up, I had my children, had a break from teaching. Then I came up here, and I taught first at Castleview for a short-term contract because I'd been out of teaching for a while, and then I taught in Grindelwald for a good few years, and then I ended up in Dronfield for another number of years. So.
Oh right.
Yeah.
As soon as I got into writing songs, I never really cared what language it's going to be. And so that's why I'll switch language and go into German. This is a song called Goldenos. It's a love song, I guess. Yeah. In terms of sometimes we kind of have that imagination that there's levels between people, and so there might be a person that you find really flirting, but you feel like it's probably not going to work because it's like another kind of thing, right? And well, that song's about to break this illusion. Selbstsicherheit ist eine falsche Tugend. Du weißt nichts. Von dem, was ich weiß, stell ich mir Gespräche vor, lang bevor du mich sehen willst, hab meine Pläne niedergelegt. Also bis Pläne der Liebe gibt, ja mit dir will ich's jedoch probieren. Ja, wenn diese Liebe wird, ich bin ein Tier und galoppiere im Wind. Ich bin kräftig und mächtiger denn alle neben mir. Ein Wirbelsturm überm offenen Meer. Tanze durch Feuerhalb und Leermond in der ganzen Welt umher. Zum Warm das Gesicht verlieren, Äpfel essen und protestieren, Flaschen entsorgen und sich selber recyceln, ein Kuss auf den Mund und dann davonlaufen. Wenn ich dein Schatten wär, trügte der Schein nur den Geblendeten. Du bist nicht die Sonne und ich nicht der Mond, wir sind Klänge. So fühl ich mich doch recht klein, vom Gefühl in der falschen Liga gelandet zu sein. Als ob es diese Liebe wirklich gibt, ja wenn dann die Liebe wird.
retired now?
Uh,
Well, you retired from teaching.
I'm retired from teaching.
You're doing
yeah.
loads of stuff, including playing the ukulele. Somebody tells me that you're playing the ukulele now.
Yeah. Well, that was a great thing that started off at Designate, organised by Emma and Ian,
Yeah.
who are very involved with the community at Designate, live in Smedley Street. So they had a couple of friends of theirs doing a workshop for a weekend this time last year, roughly. And I hadn't picked up a ukulele in my life before. So it's a wonderful little instrument to learn because you can pick it up quite quickly.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I can't. I've had a ukulele on top of the wardrobe for about 5 years, and I still can't play anything on it at all. How long have you been playing ukulele?
So it's pretty much a year.
Yeah.
So we went from this group of people who couldn't play at all to, at one concert I didn't do, a little concert in the park in Matlock, and the other one up at Designated the Gate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we feel quite chuffed with ourselves. We may not be the Ukulele Orchestra of Great Britain.
But
we
you're
can-
more of Smedley Street. Let's get on to your writing career. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to have a chat with you was about Slough, Derbyshire. Tell me all about
Slough Peak District.
Sorry, Slough Peak District. Do apologise.
Yeah.
Tell me about your idea for that.
So really, the series is not my idea as such. There's a publishing company called Bradt, B-R-A-D-T, and they are not as well known a guidebook company as, say, The Lonely Planet or The Rough Guides, but they are really good at sort of sussing out up-and-coming destinations. So they usually are the first to write about a sort of an emerging destination. But they've also done this lovely series of slow guides, which are UK-based.
Oh, okay.
Which really go from Dumfries and Galloway, so I think that's the only Scottish one, all the way through to Cornwall.
Yeah.
And when I was teaching, I started entering travel writing competitions. I loved writing at school, but I'd kind of stopped doing it completely. And then I started writing a diary with the boys when we were on holidays abroad.
Yeah.
And so we all kept a diary. And then I published one on an American website. And a German friend of mine said, "Oh, I really like that. You should do more writing." So I started entering competitions and had a little bit of success to my surprise. And I thought, oh, maybe I can do this a little bit. And it very quickly became almost an obsession, really.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. And after winning some of these competitions or being placed in them, I pitched to Bradt and said, "Oh, you don't have a slow guide." I can talk about that a little bit in a minute, what that means. But you don't have a slow guide to the Peak District. Would you like me to write you one? And I pitched my ideas, and they came back and said, "Well, yeah, we like your ideas. Would you do it?" And I was really amazed because I wasn't a professional writer, and I'd never written a book before. And I'd heard that people who write guidebooks usually start off doing chapters before they are let loose in a whole book.
Okay.
So I was kind of really delighted. And then I thought, help, what have I done? Because I'd written, little pieces, 500,000 words long, and suddenly I was being asked to write 85 to 90,000 words.
No way. That's quite a leap, isn't it?
It's quite a leap. And so I was really thinking, help, this is crazy, what have I done? And then, I just made some spreadsheets and, organized my time to research and write. And then when I didn't keep my own deadlines, and I did another spreadsheet, and so on until the book got written. So yeah, it was good fun, and I know you're really passionate about the area and the Peak District, and and Derbyshire in general, and we're so lucky to live here, aren't we?
This next two are my latest. No, it's like the EP came out a year ago, and it's called Dance Alone. Bound to do something. So then I leave I refuse my needs and fall out of love. So then I leave you above, leaving room for us all. I shrug my shoulders and kiss it all goodbye in intentional holding on to you. Here and there, I live a little star. All go well, they know how to dance alone. I brush my teeth out in the rain. I call out for these orders. The road is cold and let me do wrong. Guess we should lose one shoulder. That you stared into a stranger's eyes, an intentional holding on to you. The sun will paint a freckle on your cheeks. Promise me to get me when you're in need. I brush my teeth out in vain. I call out for these orders. The road is cold and we do wrong. Guess we should lose one shoulder. The road is cold and let me do wrong. The road is cold and let me do wrong. The road is cold and let me do wrong. I wanna go where people wanna do side out.
But I think I'm going to be envious of what a slow peak district involves. What do you have to do to?
It's a good question. So I think most people have heard about the slow cookery movement, where it's all about, buying fresh product in season, not eating fast food, taking your time, getting the best flavours from a meal. And I think that's really what slow travel is about all the time. I mean, my book never encourages people to go to the chains.
Yeah.
It's really about supporting local businesses, going to those little family-run places. It does talk about the big attractions like Chatsworth. They're wonderful places, but also very much talks about those little places that people haven't heard of. So, for example, one of my favourites is at Yulegrave by Middleton by Yulegrave. The parish there with Smerrill decided to do this project for the new millennium they called the Sites of Meaning, and all around the boundary of the parish they carved stones and put on them words of famous poems or words of wisdom. They even got local people from the local aggregates company to write poetry. our children in schools. And you can get a map. You can download it from online. If you just Google Sites of Meaning, take this map, and it's like a literary treasure hunt. And you can just go all around the boundary, some beautiful areas, for example, through Bradford Dale, and hunt out all these carved stones. And sometimes not especially carved. It might be in a dry stone wall, or it might be on a field fence post. You know, anywhere where there's stone really, or a clapboard bridge.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was reading your website, which is helen.moat@WordPress. Am I anywhere near that?
Yeah, that's me, I guess.
Yeah, I read a fabulous article about one of my favourite walks in the area, which was along Bradford Dale. And I saw one of the pictures was of there's the Middleton by Yulgrave end of the walk. We're getting a bit local for our international listeners, but at the end of the walk there's a dry stone
they have
wall.
To come, don't they?
I know, that's the whole idea. This is like an advert to come to Derbyshire, isn't it? But at the end of the walk there's a dry stone wall, and it has books in the dry stone wall. I didn't know what it was all about until I read your website. So we've got to direct
and that's exactly it. That's the Sites of Meaning.
Gotcha. Okay, and you can download that as a map.
Yeah, so if you Google Sites of Meaning, it should come up, and there's a little map on there that shows you where they all are. It's a very basic map. So if people want to do it, I definitely recommend they take an OS map as well.
Yeah.
Because it is quite a simple map. But they also list each and every one. I think there are 17, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And you can go around the whole boundary, and it takes you through some lovely parts of the White Peak. And to some historical places as well. So it sort of goes past Arbor Low, the stone circle. It goes through a Roman road that's no longer visible, but you can see from the way the land lies that the road was once there. It's really interesting in terms of local history as well.
But the one thing I liked about your website was that you mentioned the guy who used to collect the trabants. At one end of the walk, there's a guy who used to have a field full of trabant. Unfortunately, I had to get rid of them all. He had so many complaints, apparently.
I wondered about that, so you had to move them.
He's just got one left.
Oh,
he's got
it's a
one
shame.
trabant.
I love them.
It's an estate. I'd love it if he's listening to this. I'd love that car, but it's blue at the back and it's orange at the front. So I think it's two. I think it was once two trabants that have suddenly become one trabant. So, but the wildlife down there, it's an incredible place. I love it to bits. So it was really interesting reading your article. What's your website again?
Yeah. Well, my website, I think I have two, actually. There's Slow Peak District and there's Slow Travel Beyond. I have to confess that now I'm doing more professional writing. I write for Countryfile, BBC Countryfile. I write for Wanderlust blog and for Derbyshire Live. And because I'm getting more and more commissions, I do less on my website. Now and again, I think I really should post something, it's getting a ridiculously long time now. So I really need to go back to it.
It can be a bit of a chore, can't it? I'm rubbish at updating this website. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah.
So you've got the slow movement. So you're writing with that, and you say you're writing for Countryfile.
Yeah, I was really lucky in that it's really hard to get into travel writing these days. I probably left it for about 30 years too long. But, I had a lucky break. First of all, I wrote in the community website for Wanderlust, the glossy travel magazine. And then, I was invited to blog for them. And so they have invited me to write for their website. And then with the Brat book, which was a result of the writing competition, which I didn't win, but, came high enough up that they asked me to write for one of their books. And that got me into writing a guide for them. And then I think Countryfile really like nature writers and Brat writers. Yeah. So they invited me to be a member of their team on their Great Days Out. So, and that's really exciting. They're brilliant to work for. They're such a nice bunch of people.
And do
working there.
you get to just eat lots and lots of cake?
So I wrote an article for BBC Worldwide because in the summer I had a cycling holiday with our good ukulele friends, Ian Campbell and Emma Crawley even. And I just wrote to the tourist board and said, oh, have you got anything unusual that I can write about and hopefully pitch to someone? And they told me about this great story when the Germans, or the Prussians, occupied southern Denmark as it is today. They told them they couldn't sing nationalistic songs and they couldn't have alcohol in their village halls. So the Danish thought, well, if we can't have our punch, we're going to make the best cakes. And then it got really competitive with the housewives, and the cake tables just got longer and longer and more, fantastic cakes. So this restaurant in this southern town of Jutland, they invited us along, and they had it's a whole systematic thing of 7 hard cakes, which I think are biscuits really, 7 soft cakes and 7 layered cakes, and we just ate our way through all these many cakes. It was the best commission I've ever had.
Oh, that's a dream.
And I got paid for it as well.
That's incredible. So coming from Lurgan to writing about cake is what a career. What a career.
that claim to have no future. Aggression causes aggression, you see. So uncross your fingers and form a piece to volcanoes that are about to erupt. Oh, we don't need another war. The two-way volcanoes that are about to erupt. Oh, we don't need another war. Two-way volcanoes that are about to erupt. Oh, we don't need another war. Two-way volcanoes that are about to erupt. Oh, we don't need another war to wake up.
So what's for the future then?
So the future is, I'm just going to keep plugging with the writing. I've got to write the second edition of the guidebook, so I've started working on that. I cycled to Istanbul in 2015, I think.
Yeah.
And I wrote a book, and I had an agent, and she kind of pulled out in the last minute, which was quite heartbreaking. But I'm not going to give up. I'm going to see if I can find another agent. So that's my target for this year. And then I thought, after I received this letter from her, instead of saying I'm going to give up on this writing, I said, right, I'm going to write a novel. So I started writing a novel.
No way. Is it a rom-com, or is it a murder mystery, or?
It's magic realism, which I love. So yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of set in Northern Ireland, but it is this mysterious character seems to come from the Arctic Circle.
Oh wow!
So yeah, and the whole premise of the book is that she's trying to persuade the reader that the book is called A Real Imaginary Friend, and she's trying to persuade the reader that she's real, but all the indication is that she's made her up.
Fantastic.
So, but I have, I think, a good ending for it, because endings are always really hard with novels.
Yeah, if you can start with an ending, you're nearly there, aren't you? That's the best thing.
Yeah. I think the hard thing about a good novel is you need to have a really strong narrative drive, and that's the tricky bit, keeping up the momentum.
Yeah.
And keeping up the reader's curiosity.
Do you sit on a Monday morning at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock and then work through till 5, or do you just pick up the computer when you need it? Or?
I'd really like to tell you I do, but I don't. I try to have some shape in my day, and I do, sometimes when I'm going a little bit astray, I write myself a list then, and that kind of gets me back on track.
Yeah.
So, and it's not only the writing that's time consuming, it's the pitching as well. And that can be quite soul destroying, because you don't know if your pitch is going to be accepted, and quite a lot of editors don't even bother replying.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. And then you've got this additional thing these days, is that print is dying. And I think it's not that people will stop reading, it's back to, online again. And
so, yeah, so long as I go on a holiday with a bookshop, a cake shop, and a coffee shop, I'm fine. And
you're my kind of man.
And probably a pub on the end of it or something like that. But I'd rather have a bookshop, I think. I'd rather a bookshop. Yeah. I think we're lucky because we've got Scarthins. I don't know whether you spend any time in. What a fabulous place.
Wonderful. I've got quite a few German, Swiss, Austrian friends, and I always take them there, because you won't find anything like that in mainland Europe. It's so English, and it's English in a lovely, lovely way.
It could almost have been on Harry Potter in Diagon Alley, shouldn't it? It's an incredible place. Yeah. And the food, we ate there the other day, and the food is just fabulous. It really is fabulous. So hopefully we'll be able to see your novel in there in the future.
I hope so. It might always just sit on my laptop, but you just have to try. It's hard, but you just have to. Happen. The only thing I can do is write the best possible novel that I can and take it from there.
And then this weekend we've got one of your Swiss friends appearing at Designate at the Gate. We've got Dino.
Dino, who goes by the stage name of Frank Powers. So, when I was, I love this Northern Irish musician called Duke Special, who most people have never heard of. He's brilliant live. And so I went to see him in Switzerland.
Okay.
And I went to this little town that nobody knows. I mean, I'd gone past it in the train, but it's a bit like Lurgan, the kind of place nobody really stops to look at. And there's this wonderful old salt house there. And there's a guy who is absolutely passionate about music. He's a musician himself, who seems to track down all these brilliant musicians and gets them there. So he got 2 Northern Irish artists out, Duke Special and another guy called Boy Vance, indie artists that most people haven't heard of, but brilliant musicians. So I went out there and had a great time, and they were really amazed. All these British people, fans, had gone out to this little place, this little town. And as a result, I befriended him on Facebook, and he posted something from Dino, and I thought I really liked that. And then I sort of looked on his website, and he just happened to say, I'm really keen to go to Europe. He has a band, but he just wanted to travel around and do a few gigs. And he went to Designate. He also went to the Barleymoor and Bonzels. He did 2 gigs. But to my surprise, this was about 2 years ago, to my surprise, a few weeks ago, he messaged me and he said, I'm coming back to England and I really would love to go back to Matlock and specifically Designate because I really loved it there. So he sang in front of the fire, with all the fire crackling, and it was just so atmospheric up there. So, it was really magical evening. So that's tomorrow night. And there are hardly any tickets left. I think there's about half a dozen left. If anybody's interested, you need to get there early and get yourself a ticket.
Well, we'll post up on the Facebook page and get it out on Twitter, see if we can make it a sellout. But so travel writer, future novelist,
I hope,
ex-teacher, long distance cyclist. And now musical impresario. I can't even say it. Helen Moat.
Me neither.
Thank you ever so much for joining us on the Casimir Engine Show podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, just to finish off, I know that writing's a passion for me.
Yeah.
But I know that DJing is a passion for you. So keep up the good work, and thank you for having me on here.
I'll try my very best. I'll try. That's what people say. You're very trying, Casimir. So, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'll see you up there. Thank you very much indeed.
That was the wonderful Helen Moat. If you're interested in checking out some of Helen's work, you can find her on www.helenmoat, that's M-O-A-T site.wordpress.com. I'll see you next week.
Casimir Engine, reliably mediocre.